Welcome back, ladies and gents. I'm your host, Ben Pakulski. This is the Muscle Intelligence Podcast. Today's podcast is going to be a very special one. I'm going to start off with a bit of a solo cast, a bit of an introduction to this amazingly special guest, someone who has had some of the greatest impact on my development as a human. Maybe I would call him the catalyst for change in my life when I was really, really lost and unsure of how to change. He was the guy who I looked to for guidance, for wisdom, for mentorship. And before I get into talking a little bit more about our guest, I want to talk to you a little bit about that thought process. So as we develop as humans, our objective ultimately is to find the most effective way to live. We're all looking to achieve some semblance of fulfillment. Maybe it's happiness. Defining what that looks like for you is incredibly important. And one of the most valuable, maybe lessons I've had along the way, or the most valuable assignments that I've partaken in, ironically comes from a book that I bought for my daughter and I. At the time, she was 6, she's now 8. And it's a little experiment that I suggest every one of you do. So when you all heard the statement that you become the 5 people you surround yourself with. And in 2012, I was sitting by myself, realizing that the people in my life were not a representation of the person I wanted to become. And that was no fault of anybody. It was simply the life I was living at the time. And I spent most of my time with my children, with my partner, with my training partner. And it wasn't an exact reflection of the vision I had for the man I want to be. So fast forward, a few years from there, I come across this amazing experiment / writing assignment. And all the writing assignment said was, on the left side of the page was for my daughter, on the right side of the page was for myself. At the top, it read, "Who are your best friends and why do you love them?" And so my daughter answered first, and she said she had 4 or 5 wonderful friends, or maybe a couple more, and she loved them for these very particular reasons. And then I went ahead, not thinking anything of it, and I started listing all the people who I saw as the greatest contributors to my life, or the people who I just knew that I loved. And if I didn't see them for a long period of time, they would always be there for me, and I was always be there for them. And they made a massive impact on my life. And I have so much love and gratitude for these people. So I make this list, and it's about 8 people. And it didn't take me long to get to that list. I knew exactly who they were. These people just had massive impact on my life. And as I went through why I loved them, something really interesting started to reveal itself. The fact that I had curated these 8 people, each of which contributed something to my life that became a standard of living for me. So each of them contributed something that what I would say is the highest standard that I've ever come across in the particular area as to why I valued them. And so they became like role models to me or mentors to me, even without them knowing it. It was a reflection of the way of being that they were embodying, right? So they had a specific way of being in a specific area that I valued tremendously. And I guess in some way I offered them some valuable exchange and I gave them something in return. But regardless, my thought was, wow, these 8 people in my life represent a complete version of myself, or at least the highest version of myself. So someone was my role model in parenting, and someone was my role model in integrity. Someone was my role model in fitness, and someone was my role model in wisdom and spirituality and being nurturing, right? And just like the most caring person I've ever met. And these people just became my friends. And I held them so close to me, not knowing why. It wasn't a conscious thing at all. It wasn't some attempt to, keep these people close to me because I was trying to use them. It was just, hey, I just somehow unconsciously had curated this like ideal version of myself. And then for me, being able to see them and interact with them and literally just like observe them in their day-to-day life became a complete gift for me. It became a gift for me because it allowed me to see the representation of who I wanted to become. As humans, we model our behavior. Some of us grow up watching parents that have dysfunctional relationships. We grow up watching television that has dysfunctional relationships. And we don't necessarily become conscious of the representation of the entire body of who we are. It's not just physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's all of these things, financial. And so if you start to carve down the most important aspects of your life, and you go, these are the things that I value most. These are the areas of life that I think I should focus on. Do you then have someone in your life who represents your ideal version of that? And again, that could change, right? As I get better as a human, as I become more effective at thinking and being conscious and choosing my path, that might shift. But for now, the people that I have in my life are my best version of what I have to represent or what I have to reflect, right? So I want to be ultimately that thing that they have. I want to live up to that standard. That's a really interesting thought. And so for me, I can't tell you how much my life has changed simply by intentionally surrounding myself with great people, intentionally being a great person so that I could provide great value back to them. These great people wouldn't stick around with me if I was in any way bringing drama and stress and challenge and inadequacy and negativity into their life. So if you're someone right now sitting at home wondering if, hey, gosh, my life isn't great, or I wish my life could be better, instead of looking around and starting to look for those people, that could be step two. But step one, start to look at yourself and say, what do I bring of value into this situation? Why would this person invite me to their table? Why would they want to call me back after I call them? Why would they want to engage with me and create an enticing conversation? So what do you bring to the table? And it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be wisdom. It doesn't have to be education. There's something that you do right now in your life that's greater than everyone else on this planet. You may not know it yet, but it may not seem valuable to you, but someone out there values it because they don't have a model of it yet, right? So for me, maybe it's just being a really kind and loving person. Maybe that's all I bring to them, right? Maybe it's integrity. Maybe it's, I don't know, inspiration. I have no idea. Maybe it's just the fact that I actually legitimately care about them. It doesn't have to be anything like, hey, you drive the best car, because I don't. It doesn't have to be like, hey, you have the best house, because I don't. It doesn't have to be, hey, I don't have the perfect vocabulary. I don't have that either, right? I don't have any of those things, but yet I have this incredible library of humans. Again, I don't have access to my words all the time, right? I have this incredible list of people in my life, this incredible network, maybe appropriately, of people that it's just, I have to pinch myself sometimes to realize the level of human that I'm engaging with. It's truly amazing. And how did that come to be? Well, I sat within myself and I said, what is the greatest thing that I can contribute to anyone's life? What is the greatest thing that I bring to the table? And it doesn't have to be anything of significance or seeming significance to you, right? It could be something like, hey, I'm just going to be authentic. People value authenticity. Maybe I want to be vulnerable. Maybe it'll be inspirational. Maybe it's none of those. Maybe I'm just me and people love me for me. So at the risk of letting this drag on and on, I encourage each and every one of you to sit down, write down the people who in your life that you love the most and why do you love them, and allow that to start to become a representation of this avatar that you can start to create intentionally. But listen, the only way you're going to attract great people into your life is by being one yourself. And whatever you believe about what's happened in your past is completely just a story. It's just a story you're telling yourself about why you're inadequate, why you don't deserve to have these friends, why maybe you don't deserve to have the results you're after. You can choose to change your perception and accept every single thing in your life that's made you up to this point. In order for you to love who you are today, you have to love every single situation, circumstance, encounter, and person from your past, every single one. Otherwise, you can't accept and love who you are today. If you have hostility and resentment and anger about something you've done or something someone's done to you, it makes it effectively impossible for you to love yourself. At 40 years old, I had an incredible awareness this weekend, which I'll like to share with you guys. This is a very vulnerable share, but I'm going to share it anyways. So what I realized this weekend was I've lived 40 years of my life with guilt over receiving and experiencing pleasure. And that's not just sexual pleasure. That's simply doing anything for myself. I feel guilty if I don't put someone else's needs ahead of mine, or if I'm not working really hard on something. I don't have the ability to sit down and just relax and just enjoy myself, whatever that means. I get extreme amounts of guilt. And I didn't realize that. It took me 40 years. I'm a relatively conscious person. It took me 40 years to realize that. I always feel like I should be doing something. I should be helping somebody. I should be contributing to my children's life. I should be contributing to someone else's life. I should be building my business. I should be building my body. I should be doing something 24 hours a day. Sometimes I sleep 5 or 6 hours a night because I have so much guilt around, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And I want you to, I'm being intentional about the overuse of the word should, right? So the word should is a representation of someone else's standard being imparted on myself. So what is it that I should do? Answer, nothing. What do you want to do? Right? So the reality that I experienced this massive amount of guilt this weekend, and then I sat there and said, why is that there? I did something this weekend and I was like, hey, I'm just going to enjoy myself. And by the time that was done, I had painful amounts of guilt that I could have been investing that time in the gym. I could have been investing that time in my business. I could have been investing that time with my children. I could have been investing that time reading a book and personal growth. I did none of those things. And so if there isn't a purpose behind my activities, I feel guilty. And that to me is obviously, in my belief, probably put there by somebody else. Again, I'm not sure who yet. We're still working through that. But the fact that I feel that emotion, that negative emotion, is the gateway to me understanding what I should be looking at to change. If I'm experiencing pain, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, guilt, inadequacy, any of those wonderful, challenging emotions, that's the gateway. That's the doorway to you starting to understand what's there. So the next time you feel any of those emotions, or hostility or anger or frustration, sit with it. Instead of trying to mute it by taking drugs or alcohol or painkillers, or turning on your cell phone and going through Instagram, or turning on the TV or the radio, sit in silence with it and say, what is that emotion I'm feeling? How do I define it? And what put it there? Why is it there? What is my body trying to tell me? Right? Because we've created a belief around what that means. And oftentimes we're trying to run away from our emotions, aren't we? We're trying to not feel our emotions or not experience those things. But my suggestion to you is sit with it. Spend at least 5 minutes, ideally 30 minutes, sitting with it and maybe meditating on it and saying, why is that there? Who put that there? And follow the breadcrumbs, right? Follow the breadcrumbs as they lay themselves out. And you'll start to unravel the emotions and what put them there. And then maybe you can accept why they're there, and you could forgive the person that put them there, and they could just become part of who you are. And now, instead of feeling guilt over it, I can realize, like, oh, I don't need to be guilty, right? It's okay for me to be intentional about doing some of the things I want to do, right? So it's not just about what I need to do or what I have to do, right? So it's this balance between doing all the things you need and some of the things you want, and not feeling guilty about that. So that's my lesson for today, before we now jump into this incredible podcast with the guy that I will call my first ever mentor in life. So as a child, I grew up, what we'll say, with the minimal inclusion of parental guidance. That doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just means there was minimal involvement. And so I always felt like, oh, I guess I'm kind of on my own in this. And so I never had great role models in how to be a man. I never had great role models in how to be a spouse. I never had great role models in how to develop a business. I didn't have great role models in, gosh, really any relationship. I was terrible at communication. I was often angry and frustrated and intolerant and impatient. I just didn't care. I was like, you know what? F everybody. I'll do it myself. Right. That was my attitude up until the time I was about 27 years old. And so when I met this man at 26 years old, and 26, 27 years old, I was looking at him, and he had nothing but great things to say about his wife, a lady he had been with at the time, I believe, for 26 or 27 years. He had 4 children who just thought the world of him. He had a successful business. He was a calm, loving man. He had an incredible physique. From my outside point of view, he set everything together. He had all of the ducks in a row, all the things that I wanted to embody. And the thing that I loved about him most was we talked about relationships. And he goes, man, cheating is easy. Being loyal is hard. There's always going to be an opportunity for you to go mess around and be with some random person. But if you really want to be a great man, be loyal. That's hard. That's the sign of character and integrity. And that just resonated so much with me. I truthfully love or respect when people can work through their challenges together. And again, I'm not perfect. I've definitely had my challenges and I definitely haven't worked through all of them. However, I will say that I have huge amounts of admiration and respect for the men and women out there who choose loyalty, who choose to work through those challenges with the partner, not because you have to, not because I'm judging you if you leave. Trust me, I've done it too, right? We've all been through separations, divorces, whatever it is. And sometimes it just doesn't work out, but it doesn't mean you give up on it. It doesn't mean you go out there and you're messing around all the time. Anyways, so this man is one of the greatest humans I've met. He's got so much of value to contribute. Still to this day, is just crushing it in life, working hard in Pickering, Ontario, Canada, trains and or performs therapy on some of the best athletes in the country, some of the best entrepreneurs and executives. And he is a special man who's got incredible insights for us today. So enjoy this podcast with Mr. Alvin Brown. Alvin, thank you for being here, man. I love you so much, and I am eternally indebted to you. You are at the top of the list of people that I will call my eternal friends. Nothing but gratitude and love for you, my friend. And thank you for joining us if you're listening. And for everybody else, guys, thank you for being here. Today's podcast is brought to you by my favorite collagen and MCT powders on the planet, Bubs Naturals. You guys know that I use Bubs every single day. If you haven't already tried it, go get it right now. You're going to absolutely love it. This company has integrity. They're giving back to charity. The products are really the highest quality you can get. Everyone who gets collagen, how they suggest you get Bubs. It's the highest quality collagen you can get on the planet. That's not just me saying that. That's fact. There's only a few people that actually make collagen in the world, and they're getting it from the top of the totem pole. They're getting it actually from a place that's better than most of all the others. It's a very small supply of this stuff. And I've worked personally with Bubs and have this inside information as well as the MCT powder. If you haven't used it, it's going to change your life. It's unbelievable as far as its ability to give you brain performance, to give you body energy before training. It's a great replacement for milk, almond milk, oat milk, soy milk, all those things you really don't want to be consuming because it's a healthy fat that goes directly into the mitochondria to be used as fuel. Ladies and gents, head over to bubsnaturals.com. Use the code BEN to get hooked up with 20% off your order from now. And hopefully Bubs will be a long-time sponsor of the podcast. If you're not already consuming Bubs, BUBSNATURALS, bubsnaturals.com. Use the code BEN, get hooked up with 20%.
Our reality is made up. You know, I love to talk about that idea that when someone sits in front of me, 10% of what they say is possibly the truth. 90% is, and this is just an arbitrary number, 90% is kind of made up based
Perception
on
is reality.
Perception.
Yeah.
There's so much, because what I've found out is that in every reality, in every experience, we human beings love to make everything efficient because the working memory can only store so many. So we kind of just, okay, we'll get to the point. So we get to the point, but when we do that, with our experience, we delete, we distort, we generalize. So when we delete just think about right now as we sit in this room, there's the wind outside, the lights, there's so much stimulation coming in. So we just delete a lot of that to focus on what we want to think. And right now, as I'm talking to you, you're thinking about something else and kind of putting everything I said into a context, going, okay, summarize this quickly in my mind. I know what he's talking about. I put it in context, connect it with something else I experienced, and I know what he's saying. Yeah. So you delete a whole bunch. And then you distort it based on your background, based on whatever you went through. So basically, what you're going to tell me about when I leave and tell somebody else, it's going to be your version of what will be.
Based on your perceptions and your past experiences and your beliefs. And
Exactly. So when I work with somebody, I look at, okay, go ahead, tell me your version of it. And then my job is to, just like when you see on the internet, they have those tests that they do where they skip parts and you fill in the blanks. Even if they turn the word backwards and make it looks close enough, we get stalled. We fill in the blanks and call it.
Yeah.
And so my job now is to go back, fill in the richness of the experience. What's this? What you heard? And this is all NLP. This is nothing new this is nothing I created. I just took NLP now and just really tied it in with everything else. But if you start helping them to fill in the blanks and give them a richer experience, for instance, the best thing I can tell people who are not grabbing a hold of this, because some people argue for their weaknesses, right? Come on, it did happen to me, man. I was abused. That you tell me it didn't happen, man? Yeah, it did happen, but how you look at it is the thing. The shame and the guilt that you've been carrying for 30 years is not the way it should have went. You didn't cause that. Someone else did, but the narrative, human beings tend to turn everything on themselves, and we take things personal, and we take it, so we struggle with guilt and shame and resentment, holding things back. And that's what I want to get rid of, because that's the stuff that's holding people back. And if you can fill in the blanks and have them, because you can't see the frame of the picture that you're in. If you're in the picture, you can't see the frame. So my job is to show you what the frame looks like and help you fill in the blanks, right?
That's the beautiful thing about meditation, right? So this morning I woke up. Yeah. The first thing I did is I meditated, and I noticed that my consciousness was painted with a tone of like stress or anxiety or something that was a little bit negative. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that as soon as I opened my eyes, I think it's because I was startled by an alarm. Yeah. I was like, what's going on? Yeah. So I noticed it right away. And my practice every day is to choose my consciousness, right? I want to choose my framing. I want to choose my emotion. Yeah. So it's right away, it's like, I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful. And right there, that creates my framing. Yeah. So rather than waking up with the framing of like, oh, damn alarm clock, it's early and I get to wake up, boom, right away. I noticed it. So that's, like I said, meditation. One of the first things you do is you notice the general tone of your emotional state. Mm-hmm. So like if everyone just closes their eyes right now or listening, if you're not driving, don't do that. Close your eyes and just feel a general overtone. So is it calm? Is it anxious? Is it angry? Is it fearful? Is it tense? That's your general tone, right? Is it happy? Is it joyful? Whatever, right? And then you can go, okay, well, I can choose this. In any moment, I get to choose. Yeah. And I get to take that with me into my day. I think that's the most empowering mindset or framing that anyone could know. I talk about this constantly. I'm like, hey, do you realize you get to choose that? Yeah. So when someone comes into your office and goes, you're seeing their framing. Mm-hmm. The only thing, man, I would suggest to clients, I'm like, I'm not here to tell you anything about your life. All I'm here to do is open the door to the possibility that a different option is available to you. Yeah. So like, I'm just going to open that door. If you want to walk through it, you can walk through it. Then it's your choice. Yeah. Then you're empowered by your decision rather than just being like, this dude told me that my reality is wrong. I'm like, no, that's not true. I can't tell you anything. You get to choose. But I want you to know that you can. Yeah. And I think that framing seems to work well for me.
I wish I had a pen to write things out as you're saying them, because I'm thinking of a bunch of things. One, though, that I want to bring up is this. I read this in the NLP book. It says, every experience has a structure. And all we have to do is deconstruct your structure, because the content, your content is, you made that up. I'm not so, say psychology, and I don't want to generalize here, but typically I had a client of mine who goes to a psychologist. She's going to go get help herself. And they wanted to go back and remember 10 things that were tragic and you bring that to me the next time you come in. I'm like, if you go back and remember because the subconscious mind is timeless. It doesn't understand chronology. It doesn't understand you're now 40 years old. The thing happened at 5. It doesn't get that. So the minute I go back to 5 and bring that thing up, I'm now in 5 years old. Everything fires the same because it doesn't understand that I'm so distant from it. So the structure, all I have to do when I listen to somebody's content is figure out how they got there, how to process, what process they used to get there, because there's a structure to it, meaning that all my 5 senses created this structure around this thing and deconstruct it. So when they go back to retrieve that memory, that pattern that they do, they're disrupted and they can't remember what the structure was. And it's kind of weird and it doesn't feel the same anymore. That intensity is down. And so, when we look at our experience, We just got to deconstruct it, because the content doesn't matter. Everyone has a different content. When we leave today, everybody in this room right now will have a different content of what happened. It's how we structured it. So all we got to do is deconstruct it, put it back in a way that's more empowering for people. Because typically we're disempowered by our experience most times. Not everybody, but most times. Most people are disempowered. Because if you had 10 things that went beautiful, you're going to remember the one that didn't. And that's what, not yourself, but that's what most people focus on. Geez,
that's why journaling is important. Like,
right?
You got to reflect on, like, here's all the things that went really well. Everyone does it. I think it's their default. But, like, here's all the things that went really well today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one didn't go so well. But, like, let's just tip the scales in favor of, like, man, I did really well today.
Yeah.
And that way, that allows you to create that constant positive framework.
100%. I have this process I do with people called build your you done good list.
What?
Build your you done good.
You done good.
You done good. So even the Little League World Series that you played in, even you got third in this race.
Yep.
Write them all down. Write everything down, because those little wins are what we forget, and we start to just focus on. We become myopic.
Yep.
You know, geez, that person said again. One of those things where we like to take things personal.
Yeah. One of the most powerful experiences I've had in the last couple of months. So I'm meditating on the beach of Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And I told this in the podcast. I'm meditating on the beach of Costa Rica, and I'm in meditation, and it was so vivid. My 7-year-old self walks up. He's crying. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what's going on? So I'm like, I call him over and I put him on my lap. He's crying. So what that allowed me to do was, to my 7-year-old self, I went through and I said, here's what you've done in your life.
Yeah.
Here's all the things you've done.
Beautiful.
Like, don't cry. Like, I know it's hard for you right now, but it's going to be okay. You're going to work this out, and you're going to turn all these challenges into your greatest strengths.
Beautiful.
So even though people right now aren't supporting you in the way that you need, you're turning this into something great. You're going to be a leader in this world. You can do great things in this world. People are going to love you. People are going to respect you. And it just flipped. And so, but as I did that consciously, I was like, hey, when you were this age, you did this. When you were this age, you did this. And all of a sudden, his face starts to light up. So that experience for me, even though it was in meditation, was a really powerful experience for me to kind of review. Like, holy shit, I've done really cool things in my life. And I feel like I'm just getting started. Right? I feel like I'm at the beginning of a new race, right? I ran one race. It's a new mountain, right? I call it the second mountain. Yeah. It's like I ascended one, like most people do, and it's the materialistic mountain. And like I wanted this thing. Yeah. And now the new mountain is internal. It's like, how do I just become, this is why you and I get along so well. I was like, what is that thing that, that journey that's within. Yeah. Like, now I'm looking for me.
The hardest journey, by the way.
And sometimes it's not about adding anything. This is what I'm realizing. It's about taking away.
Yeah.
It's about taking away, right? Huge. All those beliefs, all those limitations, all those things all those stories that you've created or people have put there for you.
Yes.
And seeing who you are. And one of the things that I talked about yesterday was, people are seeking happiness.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why don't you just choose happiness instead of seeking it? Mm-hmm. Right? And why don't you just choose joy instead of seeking it? Like, if I can't get happiness from drugs and alcohol and TV and sex and whatever, because it's fleeting, right? I'm going to chase the next girl, I'm going to chase the next relationship. Why don't I just choose happiness every minute when I wake up and choose gratitude? Now it becomes a very different conversation than seeking it.
Now, quick question on that. Like I said, I wish I had a paper to. There's so many things you're flooding in my. I don't want to miss any, but I'm going to ask you a question. How can people handle being happy completely for a long extended period of time? Because I often wonder, it's almost like, if I gave you everything you ever wanted, what would be next? So lady, quickly, to hold that thought and think that for a second. The lady said to me, one of my clients, Alvin, do you go to church? And I said, no, I don't go to church regularly. I don't go to church. She goes, oh, why didn't you go? I go, why? Why should I go? She goes, I want you to go to heaven. And I said, okay, tell me about heaven. Oh, Alvin, heaven is this place where you go. The streets are paved with gold, and you never have any problems anymore. And you just, so I'm like, okay, so what's hell? Oh, it's a cauldron, burning, and you're going to burn. So I said, so just tell me for a second. When I go to heaven, and I woke up on day 400, and it's still the same bliss, would I know I'm in heaven anymore? Because there's no contrast.
Be crazy. You start to go crazy.
Crazy. I'm in hell. This is hell. Yeah. I can't. Another day like this. So you need that contrast. You need this. So I said, the way I said, here's my thing. The way I live my life, I find heaven's here, already. It's here.
That's funny because one of the things that I believe is we're obviously spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
And I think this is heaven. I think you're this energetic being, and the Creator goes, "Hey, Alvin, you're in, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's your time. Go in there and fucking ride it out, and enjoy it, and have a blast, and enjoy the emotions, and enjoy the experience because it's going to be really fun. You might get to go again. Not really sure. Go in there and make the most of it."
Yeah.
And you're like, "All right, come, ready to go, coach. I can do it." You're diving in. You're coming all excited. And someone's going to say, "You can't do that."
Yeah.
Like, whoa. Like, I think this is it, man. I'm like, this is our experience.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
I really have a belief that, like, why wouldn't it be?
I did a post recently on this idea that my life is perfect for me.
Totally.
For me. If I got your problems, I'd be crushed under your problems. Any of our viewers, listeners, if I had their problem, I'd be crushed. But you know what? For me, my son has autism, my last son, that's perfect for me. I can handle that. My niece who died a few years ago, I can handle, because that was for me. I can handle your problems because everyone is engineered and prepared. If they allow it to happen and not fight it, you are prepared for what's coming to you. If you allow it and stop the fight, wishing, oh, that guy's better than me and she has it better. And if you just accept everything that's coming to you, embrace it, surrender, and let it hone you, you're ready because you've been prepared. Even if you have someone with cancer who you found out they have cancer, 3 years ago and they died now, you've been prepared before.
Have you read the book Awareness by Anthony DeVello?
No.
Read it. You're going to love it. So I'm reading it now. It's one of my favorite books that I've read maybe in my life. And really simple framing, but it's basically that. It's like life is not meant to be blissful. It's meant to be challenging.
Yeah.
And when you, it's just through if you think about through the beginning of time, it's like prior to us being civilized, we were living, whether it was apes basically, and probably getting eaten by lions, and it was never less brutal than it's probably the least brutal that it is now.
Yeah.
And there's still there's always been wars. There's children are dying and babies are dying. That's just part of the human experience. But we have this Hollywoodized version of what life should be. Like, oh, it needs to be blissful and perfect. And I'm like, well, no, man. This is the most amazing it's ever been. The people have never experienced hard times. I always say we're soft. Yeah. Never experienced any hard times to have any relative comparison.
That's right.
So as soon as something small happens, we fucking freak out. Yeah. Like, oh, this is terrible. And I'm like, well, is it? Yeah. Life is incredible. The fact that we're here, we get to enjoy this. We get to experience this. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful existence.
Yeah, because after every painful time, the opposite is always this exhilaration.
Perspective.
Oh yeah, and if you allow it,
Yeah. So
if
you anticipate the reality that something challenging is going to happen,
that's what it is. Yeah.
Then right now is bliss.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, there's something worse that could be happening to you right now, without question.
Yeah.
So right now, maybe compared to that, this is awesome, and maybe there could be better things. That's great too. I think losing the attachment to always needing the label, right? The expectation.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not good enough. Great. It's great to pursue things. I think that's wonderful, but pursuit without attachment.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of the premise of this book. It's like giving you a new framing of how to look at all experience.
It's like having a bad day or a good day. That's just a label. It's just a day.
Right. It's just a day.
It's a day.
Are obstacles bad?
Right. Right. And the best times that you grow is in, because I asked somebody this question. I said, the best test you ever did. What was the best test you ever did? 90%. Tell me all about the ones you got right. Could not remember the ones you got right. Tell me the ones you got wrong. They could remember the few of them that they got wrong. Why? Because that's the one that challenged them to go back and make it better.
Yeah.
See, we never remember anything that went right.
It's funny, Andy and I were just talking about whenever at workouts, or I'll intentionally write them harder than the person is capable of doing. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's memorable.
Yeah.
If I give you a workout that you just complete, like, oh, it was easy. Mm-hmm. It's like, that was okay. Yeah. If I give you a workout that's right outside of your comfort zone, and it's like outside of what you're physically capable of doing, you'll remember that workout for a long time. So in the original MI40, which was written in 2010, day 31, like I've got thousands of people around the world that have written me about day 31.
Right.
Like, dude, that was the hardest workout I've ever done. Right. And I remember it vividly in my head because everyone's like, man, what is this? Like, and like, I'm like, that's a workout I used to do all the time. And was that the hardest workout I've ever done? I literally probably thousands, maybe on the order of 5,000 people have written me about 831. And I'm like, and I remember it. And like I intentionally write those things, or I create them for myself outside of the realm of what I think I'm going to enjoy. And that's how we grow up. But you didn't remember day one, whereas like that was easy. Because that was a build up, right? But you remember day 31 because it was outside of your realm of comfort.
And that's the thing. The brain is something it's already been known, but something I had an epiphany on. Even when anybody who owns a business is listening, the brain loves novelty. So if you're doing anything the same, we don't wake up to the same.
So true, man.
We love novelty.
Yep.
The brain wakes up for novelty. It just, because the beautiful thing about the human body, you know this, you can appreciate this, adaptation. The brain loves to adapt really, really quick. That's why we learn phobias so quickly. Here's an experience, lock it in, phobia done.
We feel like we're accomplishing something when we have novelty.
And it loves efficiency. So that's why it prunes away experiences that we don't use anymore. Only stick to the things that we do.
So interesting.
Right? Because the brain loves, the body is in constant, let me get more efficient. It's always in efficiency.
Do you think it's also the ego saying, I learned something today? Like if I'm doing something, I'm overcoming an obstacle and it's small, or I'm doing something new and novel, and I have this unconscious be like, I did something today. If I do the same thing over and over and over again, even though that may be what I need in business, if you want to grow your business, like what I say in exercise, when you start an exercise program with me, you get 24 exercises total, 3 per body part, tops. Go master those for the next 3 or 4 months. Like what? Get good at those. And when you get good at those, your results come. It's in business. Like you don't need novelty. You need to get better. You need action, execution. So interesting.
And so that's what makes me excited about the body and the nervous system, because it's always pruning away. Whatever you don't need, it prunes it away, and then you're on to. So it loves novelty. It gets used to things. That's why when we drive, first time you're driving, it's like, oh, it's okay. Now you can drive an hour, don't even see anything around you. They built up a building and you didn't even realize it. Oh, someone said, do you see that building? What building? You drove automatically. So it loves automation. So that's why the phobias kick in real quick and they get locked in, because we just the brain loves efficiency, So, man, I'm just fascinated by so the question I'm going to shoot it back at before we move on is, can someone accept being happy? Is this every day? Can you really, is this something that is inherent in us to say?
Absolutely. I mean, you so happy, not complacent, right? And then there's people who, I know people who don't feel like they deserve to be happy, and that's their programming. And I've experienced that deeply. So I think some people just don't believe they deserve happiness, so they intentionally seek misery because they want to commiserate. Like, let's talk about how shitty our day was, or let's talk about how shitty the government is, or how shitty the weather is. There's a huge percentage of people like that. But then they can commiserate and they can relate to people, so it allows them to belong. I feel like, hey, we can be together, we can be friends because we both hate the same shit. And so that's what percentage of the population do you think? At least 50 wants to just, I want to hate life so that I can talk to my neighbor how much they hate life. That's just the relatability, man. And then there's the other people, that's the crabs in the bucket. Then there's the other people who are trying to get out of that. And they're getting pulled back because like, I'm losing my family. My family hates me. My friends, I didn't realize how real that was. Until very recently, a friend of mine was kind of changing her lifestyle. She was becoming healthy. She quit drinking. She was partying less, and all of her friends were like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you want to go for a drink? She's like, no, I stopped. I give it up. She was a functional alcoholic, and she just gave it up. And all of her friends stopped talking to her. They got very angry. Like, they're trying to force her to drink. I was like, I don't understand that. You're trying to better yourself. You're training, you're working hard, you're reading books, you're doing personal development, you're taking art classes. And your friends are going, hey, let's go for some drinks. It's like, it's so interesting how people just want to pull you down.
I had someone close to me, working with me, who was working towards change. And it's amazing how this person, as you said, goes home and they're laughing at, oh, how long are you keeping this up for?
Totally.
How long are you going to do this?
Because they're deflecting their own limiting beliefs on you.
And then I even see this person comes to work with a salad, but hides it. Hides the salad. I don't know from because you're safe around here. But this idea that I don't even want us to see it because it's strange. Like,
you brought your own food. Isn't it interesting?
And a salad.
Isn't it interesting that, I mean, I got this all the time. If you bring a Tupperware to lunch, and someone brings McDonald's
Yeah.
to lunch, you're going to get ridiculed.
Yep.
They're going to get envied.
Yeah.
God, your house smells great.
Yeah.
You're so lucky.
Yeah. Animal House.
What the
Yeah.
what's wrong with people?
Yeah. That's why the partiers, Animal House, right back in the day, John Belushi. Party! You know, that's what the people. If you tell people I went, what do you do for the weekend? I went for a run. I went. They think it's boring.
You know what's interesting? You know One Morel? You know One Morel?
Yeah.
Pro bodybuilder.
Yeah.
He has, and he's built a business off it. So awesome. Kudos. He has so many followers on social media just because he eats like a lunatic.
Yeah.
He eats like just a maniac. He goes to like every McDonald's, like, and before the show, he's gonna have 17 burgers or whatever.
Right,
like I'm
right.
exaggerating.
Yeah.
But he grew this huge social media following exclusively over the fact that he was shredded and was able to eat like crap.
Right.
He's since turned into a multi-million-dollar business. Have you seen his cookie dealer?
No.
He's crushing it. So
Right.
he was the guy eating all these amazing desserts and turned into a business. Brilliant. But he just got put on this pedestal because look how great he looks and he can eat like that.
Yeah.
So people want to live vicariously through it. And
Yeah.
like, oh, I can do that too.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't.
You cannot.
Right.
You cannot.
Yeah, it's so interesting how people, like people's interesting minds.
But
reality.
that piece that you're talking about, when you're talking about crabs in a barrel, that one, if you think about it, if you and I were friends and we're playing at the same level, all of a sudden you decide to crawl out of the bucket. What you're doing to me is you're forcing me to look in the mirror and go, what have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done in my life? Because you're now crawling out of something we've been used to.
Right.
What
and
have I
I'm
done in my
realizing
life?
that you're better than me.
That's my
I don't
perception.
acknowledge that. Yeah.
Instead of saying motivate me,
Right.
you're now causing me to feel pain.
Yeah. Oh shit. I
will
can't do that.
I will do what the hell I can to get you back in that. But I'll remind you about who you are, who I know you as being.
And I think everyone needs to hear this message when they're kids. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that, and I see parents doing this, right? That blows my mind. Like, if my kids can take over the world, I would just lift them up, man. I'd be like, so that's my character, you know? Like, oh, please go crush. Like, if I can support you, if you could step on my back to get to the next level, do it. And it blows my mind to hear parents just like wanting the kids to not excel or succeed because of like leaving them behind.
I'm smiling because I'll keep this as private as I can, but I was working with an entrepreneur who gave me a quick call, and it's all about his mother, who has this affinity to make him feel so small, gives him no credit, zero, no matter what accomplishments he brings.
That's probably what drives him unconsciously.
He realizes that, but it's amazing how consciously. So we have the conscious, subconscious. The conscious mind is beautiful. You have the prefrontal cortex, and you can make decisions and all these logical, great things. But deep below is this. It's almost like that, the classic iceberg and the big thing below. The conscious is that little tip up top where we can make all these great. You and I can have this conversation, but deep below is this thing that sits there that holds all this shit.
Processing network.
Yeah. That you can think logically, but underneath is this driving thing that drives your behavior, because he's sitting there saying what you just said. That's part what drives me. But underneath, it's like, just going off on this. I hate, he's driving me a lot of, all of that. But consciously knowing what this procedure is, what this codependency thing is that they have together. So it's amazing how we really have to work. I almost say it's like put a glass of Coke and you pour water in. You just got to keep pouring and pouring. That thing eventually gets lighter and lighter, but eventually, if you got to keep pouring, it gets lighter and lighter. And eventually, over time, the water will lighten and dilute this dark Coke, But that's what, I often say to people who are dealing with past self-appearance, which is where we all pick up shit, is from, you probably heard some of your guests have probably heard this old story of the lady with the meatloaf in the oven. So I'll quickly, some of you have probably heard it, but the story of this guy sitting there, he's watching his wife cut off the ends of her pot roast.
You told me this before.
Right. Cuts the end off the pot roast, puts it in. She says, honey, what are you doing? She goes, oh, we just don't eat the ends of pot roast in my family. We don't eat the ends. You just don't eat that. So that's interesting. Okay, why? I don't know. We just don't do it. So go ask Mom, why do you guys cut the end off the pot roast? She goes, I don't know. That's just how we do it. It's just a family thing. We don't eat the ends. Grandma was alive. Go ask Grandma. Grandma, why'd you do that? She says, I don't know. That's the way we were given that. But what I understand, anyways, is back a generation ago, the oven couldn't fit the pot roast in. So see, they carried it forward now, the same thing. So that's what I look at when we hand things down to the next gen. We're handing down that pot roast. We don't know why we cut the ends off. The oven's bigger now; it can fit, but we just don't eat the end of that pot roast.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
what. For those of you that don't know, Alvin was the guy who introduced me to meditation circa 2006 or 7 maybe. And so it brings up the conversation around meditation. So what I use my meditation practice for now is almost to become the observer of my thinking, to become the observer of my actions. And that's the greatest thing in the world, right? I can sit here and see myself reacting or see myself thinking something or walking into a circumstance that I feel something coming up. And then I could take this kind of meta level awareness and go, oh, what's that? Why is that there? Yeah. How am I going to choose to respond or react to this? So whereas in the past, I didn't, because pre-meditation, I didn't have that. I could just go in and just be.
With stimulus response.
Right. Yeah. Rather than oh, now I can be aware of what is this feeling about it? That's a little uncomfortable. Do I want to experience this or do I want to let it pass? Why am I feeling this? Oh, I'm like, okay. I can then choose to act differently. So I'm now observing my unconscious coming up and wanting to express itself consciously or however it expresses itself. And I can observe.
Yeah.
And so this is, I think, the greatest gift of meditation, right? So rather than just expressing, like your friend seeing your friend who's freaking out about his mom, you can feel that coming on and go, huh, why is that there?
Yeah.
Who put that there? Was it me or somebody else? And do I want to choose to express this thing now?
Yeah.
That's the most amazing thing in life, I think. It's like I can just observe. So now as a parent, so if you guys that don't know Alvin, so Alvin and I, 2006, met each other. I was a young meathead bodybuilder, nothing about it. I didn't know shit about fuck. Just to go out.
I just want to win. It's all your goal. I want to win by any means possible.
Right. And I had so many limitations and challenges. And you started introducing me to reading and books and self-development and would go and do sessions with you. And we were it was the first exposure to any of this stuff. And man, that stuff changed my life. And so one of the things that I admired most about you when we started was, one, you're successful in business. Two, you had 4 kids and a wife who you're actually one of the only people I'd ever met. And this is a true story. Only people I'd ever met who was happy in their relationship, happy with their wife, and not cheating on their wife. And I was like, what is it about this guy? He's got a great business. He's got a great attitude. He's in personal development. He's got 4 kids that love him. And I was like, I've never seen anybody like this before. And that was the honest truth. I was like, I've never seen anybody like this. I didn't know a single person who wasn't talking about who they were cheating on their wife with, or the kids hated them, or they're having a fight with their kids. I was like, this is the type of person I want to be with. Can we have more conversations? I think every week I drove to do therapy with you just because I wanted to understand what your secret sauce was.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's so funny. I didn't think of this as anything, by the way, this thing you talk about, me, my character. I didn't think of it as just me being me.
Yeah.
But the more I started to talk to, I met another person who's 50 plus years old, and he said, you're the first guy I met without a burner phone. Without another little phone at the side and I'm like, that's strange. That seems to be a common theme here. What is this? Yeah, and so he said, you're the first person. And I'm like, that seems to be a common, because I know some of the men that I'm working with are these big, tough dudes, and they're, but that seems to be a thing. What is that? Because I didn't think of it. I'm just being me. And the only reason why I'm like that is because I've grown up seeing a lot of the other part where great women, I know some people, and I won't mention names here, I'm trying to keep it as private as possible. I know some people who I'm looking at and going, this woman is amazing. But this need to do all this. So I'm like, that's interesting. And I've seen, my own father do the same. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to continue the pot roast. Here's the pot roast. Here's the pot roast. Right. Yep. I want to be an example. And the way I saw Will Smith say that. We asked him, why you want to be remembered? I want to be an example. So if I continue to, and I hate being, if you expect me to be whatever you expect,
break expectations.
Break expectations. That's what I want to do. So, I continue, and if I say my value, one of my values is integrity, there's no use me saying it, and then you find out that, dude, man, come on. So I'm so true to my word that I will stick to that no matter what. And, I'm a guy like everybody else. Women are beautiful, the whole thing. But I got to remember that, it's ironic, and this is the first time I'll say this. in public as well. It's a thought that I had is even if there's a temptation, the minute you give into that temptation, the person you give into it loses respect for you. So one of my values is having respect, either from people or from. But the very minute the funny thing is that person might want you, really say they want you really badly, but the minute you give in, you've lost the thing they want you for, and you become average again. So I know that.
Have you read David Dita, The Way of the Superior Man?
I've got that book. I haven't read it.
Read it. So he speaks about that. So like it was actually a great parenting and a great relationship book. Whereas this idea of like women are constantly shit testing you.
Yeah.
Like to see how much they can push and see how much strength you have and how much you will, if you're gonna cave.
Yeah.
So like even to include my daughter, like constantly she's shit testing me and I see it. I just stand with a big smile on my face. Like, I love you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Don't give in.
That's it. Yeah. I'm like, I just love you. And then you can. It's unconditional. So I could see her trying to push to see, does this man actually love me? Is he going to support me when it's hard? What is he willing to put up with?
Yeah.
And so, like, I see that just inevitably. And so, the same thing with women trying to, like, like, hey, you want to go have a little fun? Or, like, totally, man. And it's like, nope, not going to, like, and you said something to me. I think it was you said something to me when we were young. It's like, cheating's easy, man.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's easy.
Just say yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy.
Just say yes.
The people you respect most are the people you don't. Like, not cheating, being loyal.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's like.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Monogamy is, I don't know if it shouldn't be in the animal world or what, but it is. It's, what was that? I came up with something around that where no, it seems to be, the passive thing is no, but it seems to be the hardest. You know what I mean? Like, just say no. Yeah.
And then investing in, I get the dynamic challenge of like that person you're with, like, you have to invest, like no question. You got to be sure it's the right person. So that's the challenge. Like, I'm not really sure if this is the right person. Then don't invest. Get the hell out. Right. Yeah. So like, you're the same as me. As we invest deeply in a small number of people. And when you invest everything.
Everything.
And that can sometimes hurt. And I think that's why people are afraid of, like, this person's going to screw me over. But that's part of life, man.
Yeah.
That's depth. Right?
Yeah.
It's like investing in a business or investing in your body, investing in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, so many people are about breadth. Like, I'm going to go really wide. No, man. Go deep.
Yeah.
Go deep and on a small number of things.
Now, you remember funny that you brought this up. Remember the ayahuasca we did?
Of course I do.
Okay. Remember that? So when we left that experience, I remember the shaman that was leading us through, he was saying, because when I was down 8 hours, I didn't realize it was 8 hours.
I was in 90 minutes. You were in 8 hours.
I was like a corpse.
Yeah.
Done. And I could hear you. And I was like, how did he go so fast? And
process fast.
You're done, right? So I'm laying there. I didn't realize it was 8 hours, getting cold now. But anyways, halfway through that thing, in my mind, I called him.
Yeah.
In my mind, and I said, I felt a tension here, right in the heart space. It was this side was pasted to the bed. I couldn't get like really weird.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I called him, and he came. Weird. Started doing whatever he does, clearing the heart space. And anyways, after the debrief, after we're done, he's saying, so what is it, what's going on with you? Is it your appearance? Is it your, like, what's your resentment are you holding here? And I was like, no, I think I'm good with my father, that's cool. My son I don't think I blame God. I can't figure it out. But we left that, I went on back home. I'm like thinking, what is it? It was lack of vulnerability. Two things I learned from that. One, I need to let go of control because I didn't let myself go under because I was holding on to so much control. You're never going to get me go. It's almost like reminded me of my stag. They were trying to get me drunk. I would never let them do it. It reminded me of the same thing. I just was staying over here in the sanity and over here in the letting go and just wouldn't let go. It was tiring. Yeah. So that tiring thing made me realize that I'm holding, even in my job, my work. What I was doing, though, the second thing I realized was I was holding resentment against people who I believe harm me in the heart space, who came to work for me possibly and said, hey, and then they left. And I didn't realize, I thought I was tough enough. Whatever, I don't care. But it actually was what I was holding, the resentment over, and it was building calluses on top of my heart space, which I'm like, damn, okay, I didn't realize that. So when I came back, two things I did. Learn to let go. And then to let them go as well. Let go of the people, and also let go of trying.
Did you have a process to do that?
I went through the ayahuasca helped because it made me realize at one point I tried to hold a state. There was that state we got to where it was elation, where I felt like, oh, man, I could control the world, man. It was like, this is awesome. Like, this world, woo, woo. Like, so I tried to hold on to that feeling and go back there every so often.
Yeah,
so
meditation, for sure.
Right? Yep. Meditation is huge. And what you were saying, by the way, with the meditation is that 40,000 foot view, it's almost like someone gave me a great example. I can't remember who was listening to me. It was Sadhguru. We were listening to him. He was talking about this idea of traffic. And I love this thing. You remember when you're in traffic, you're like, "Biz, what the hell is ahead of me here, man? What's going on? I want to drive up there and see carnage, because this got to be carnage, man. If I'm in this traffic,
slow me down.
Oh man, you were just.
I'm in a rush to get home before I catch.
Exactly. Right. So I got to get home to argue with my wife. Come on, let's go. But anyways, and then he says, imagine then I take you up in an airplane and you're just looking at it. The tension is gone. You're just seeing it. You look ahead. You see what's going on. Yeah. No big deal. Because you realize it's soon. You're almost there, and it's emotions are gone.
Right.
Because you're not in it, and you can't see. Because when you're in it, you can't see ahead of you. You can't see the distance.
Is it the fear of what, like anticipation?
Yeah, and the control.
Lack of control.
Yeah, I'm in this, and one thing I notice when I'm working with people who are super depressed is that their vision for the future comes really close.
That's true.
Right here. You can't see. You ask them to see next. Tell me about what do you want to see in the future? A month from now. Can't see a month. Can't see a week.
I know the answer to this question. Have you done Dan Sullivan's 25-year framework?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know that. So Alvin is when we met, he was voracious. How many books? I was like, read this? Of course. Read that 7 times. Read that every year. Yeah. Like, God, you're ahead of me, man. Right. I'm glad I got you in one book.
Yeah. You haven't got. Right. Yeah. You got me in a few now, man. I watched you. Yeah.
Man, that's so great.
But so that really and truly, what you were saying, I'm going to take one quick start, the meditation, and why it's helped me a lot being a parent and in my business and personal life, professional and personal. One day, my kids were in the bathtub, 2 boys at the time. They were young, and they were in the bathtub, and I was getting irritated for something. I think I wanted to go do something. I had to do whatever. And they were doing something, and in my mind, I thought, I'm going to go hit them. Just because they were irritating me. And I thought, what the hell is that? Why do you want to hit them? Because it was the past, right? That's how my menu, I call it a menu item. If you present me with a problem, a challenge, I go down my menu. Let me see. I could hit you. I could argue with you. There's a menu. Yeah. And what's at the top of the menu? I'm going to grab the top thing.
Right. Or I've tried this one. It didn't work. What else I got?
Yeah, wow. But I caught myself. I go, what the? Meditation. I was able to become the watcher going, what are you actually, what are you getting upset?
And what do I want them to know?
Yeah.
Like, what am I trying to,
all of that.
What am I trying to teach them? Like,
all of that.
Hitting clearly isn't going to teach them anything, except that I'm an asshole. So let's not do that. Let's plan B.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, we got to move now. Right. And I think when you learn to speak in an assertive way, rather than like wishy-washy, and things get done.
Yeah.
Especially
intentional.
Yeah, exactly. I think the problem with parents is they're like, oh, whatever you want. They try not to be a bad parent.
Yeah.
They're trying to be like the good parent. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it goes from like, shit, my kids aren't listening to me. Well, you simply didn't tell them what you needed. You weren't explicit.
Yeah.
Or, man, and I'm going through this with my kids right now, like routine is so important, and routine expectations. Crucial. And if they don't have those, all of a sudden when you ask them to do something that's like challenging for them, or what otherwise should have been their routine, all of a sudden it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there's definitely some parenting lessons built in there, man. But man, I'll tell you, I wrote that testimonial for recently, and it's all true. It's just the idea of like how much you changed my life. I don't even know if you would know. Yeah. Like I was on this path of mindless, my history, man, and so much mindlessness and so much anger and this myopic direction, and nothing else mattered. I just wanted to be a bodybuilder. And just opened up my eyes to so much, man. And like the fact that I'm, I would put myself in the category of being a great dad. Mm-hmm. I owe so much of that to you, man. Do you know that I named my daughter after Wayne Dyer's daughter? Because you introduced me to Wayne Dyer. Sky. That's right. Sky.
That's awesome.
So like you introduced me to Wayne, and like I was like, dude, this is like And I went to see him in California. You might not know that either.
No, I
went to see him live.
Before you passed.
Yeah. So I was like one of the last people in. I'm sitting in the back row in the back, and his daughter's at the front. He comes in the back, and they're like walking, and they're singing together.
Right.
And we do this duet, and they kind of stop right beside me. And it was just the most magical thing I've ever seen. I was like, my daughter wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
I was like, I want that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to have that. You could just see the love and the connection, the amount of respect and admiration they have for each other.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I want. So for the first 4 years of my daughter's life, probably ish, we would dance. Like every at least once or twice a week on the weekends. Yeah. She'd wake up in the morning and I'd hold her in my arms and I would sing, we'd put music and we'd dance. And to me, that's like the greatest connection that I could build with her. Now we have the best relationship. We're just so close.
Yeah, I love it.
I wanted a lot of that to you, and obviously Shane, and like just seeing. I never had a model, man. I never had a model for what a good relationship was. Yeah. And you were there going through some of my relational challenges early in the years. And
I remember the time we got deep.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It wasn't easy.
Yeah. It wasn't easy. No, I appreciate every word you say, man, and it means a lot to me. Although I don't. Probably short as much, but trust me, I keep every voice, everything you said.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it doesn't need to. Like, I don't need you to tell me it means a lot. Like, I just want you to know that it matters. Yeah, it matters. So when you're helping people, you're doing a great job. And I know your intentional pursuit of your own excellence is admirable. Yeah, and don't ever stop, man. Like, just be you, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I tend to do every day, man.
Yeah, regardless if people notice or say it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because it's making a difference, man.
Yeah. I think it was Deepak who said, just to paraphrase, I am free from the good or bad opinions of anybody. So even if you give me a compliment, the minute I give you a compliment and you kind of let it elevate you, I own you. Yeah. Because I can take that away at any time. Totally. Man, maybe you taught me that as a bodybuilder, but that was my gift as a bodybuilder. I didn't give a shit if people said I was the best, or they said I was the worst. Yeah, sometimes when they throw those jabs, that hurts a little bit. Yeah, but like there was a point where I was like, I'm free of the opinion of others is absolutely true. And imagine as a bodybuilder, you're standing on stage in your underwear, everyone's judging you. Yeah, and so at some point toward the end of my career, I was like, I know that I'm my worst critic, and I know what I need to get better at. I know what I'm great at. I know what I'm bad at. Yeah, that's all that matters. And so this pursuit of personal progress or personal excellence. Yeah, for shit, what you think of me. Yeah. I think that in life and in business is a very powerful message for people to hear, right? Yeah, you know what? Here's where you're a great example, living example, without even attempting it. His idea that anybody listening now, wherever you start is not where you have to end, and as you're saying back in 2006, 2005, whatever it might be, that Ben is not the Ben now. That Ben had an intention. He had a goal. That Ben had a goal, and it was, by any means possible, I'm getting this, right? Because he knew that goal will elevate you to wherever.
I don't even know if I knew that.
Right.
It didn't matter.
I think it was unconscious, though, really and truly, because you were intentional. Yeah. And just like you're intentional now, but intention changed.
Yeah, different direction.
Right, and for some, you can't downplay the fact that you knew when some people can't smell when it's over. Some people are still going and to their death. Yeah, you went. I'm here. Okay, next. I'm okay with letting go.
Yeah, and this. You don't even know if you knew that, but like when I started, I had a plan to retire at 35 because I knew how unhealthy, or at least I had a belief around how unhealthy bodybuilding was. Yeah. So I was like, listen, my intention is to hit the top of the world by the time I'm 27, 28, and then stay there till 35, and then I'm out, man. And I'm so grateful that I was able to commit to that. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have if my kids weren't born. If my kids didn't give me a new direction, a new path, a new purpose. Man, after they were born, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Right. I couldn't be the same ruthless guy, selfish, and go home to these angels. I just couldn't do it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it definitely shifted me, man. And still to this day, I say they're my angels because I actually believe that. And you're an angel to me too, man. And I don't say it in a weird way, but people come into your life. Yeah. And some people come in for a minute, some people come in for an hour, and some people come in for a lifetime. And those people are sent to change you in some way if you're awake enough to see it. Yeah. So I have a list of people who have had the most impact on me, and you're at the top of the list, right? I appreciate that. And people just man, I've met people for 5 minutes and something they said or did made an impact on me. And I'm like, oh, to include podcast guests.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to take this information, apply it to the current construct that I have, and say, how can I use this information to make it better?
Yeah.
And it could be anyone, right?
Yeah.
Improve my understanding of the world, improve my understanding of business, improve my understanding of parenting, improve my understanding of the body. I take this piece of information, I apply it to this contract I have over here.
Yeah.
And everyone is an angel, man. Everyone in your life is an angel, no matter how long they're in or out.
100%.
Yeah.
You can choose to, again, bellyache about that person being in your life or learn from it and repeat it. And, I mean, when I think back to our time in that room, man, we spent hours dissecting.
So much. And multiple clinics in your house and
dissecting all that info.
Yeah, dude, to include you had parent people in your life, maybe your dad, and I had my dad, and I think it's still an angel who comes to teach you how not to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you read Conversations with God?
I did.
Yeah,
I finished it, and I got a couple of versions. Yeah.
Well, so. I didn't read the whole book, but there's a child version of the book. It's called The Little Soul and the Sun. Everyone get that book.
Right.
And it's about this conversation that's happening in heaven between a little soul and two little souls. And it's this conversation of like, hey, we're gonna go to Earth, but I've already figured out. I know exactly all about life, but I'm gonna intentionally allow you to experience a challenge. I'm gonna bring a challenge into your life. Anyways, it's worth reading. I don't want to give away the story, but it's like everyone. So imagine we're all just these souls having a human experience, and maybe we're all perfect angels and souls. But maybe some people are here to teach you some new lesson, and you don't have to hate them. You don't have to think they're bad. They're just sent to impart this new lesson on you. And part of the book is like, I'm going to do this thing, and you're going to be very upset with me, but please remember that I'm also a perfect soul. I'm just here to bring you this lesson or this experience.
Yeah.
And so, like, man, all those people who are bringing you challenging experiences, you're like, fuck, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't be the man that I am without that. You wouldn't, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And, it's funny, two things. One, NLP has a statement that says, every behavior has value. It depends on the context. So someone who behaves in a certain way in the wrong context would look like, oh my God, they're worse. But you put them in another environment and it fits in that environment. Right. So every behavior you have is for good intention, but it's in the wrong context.
Right.
Okay?
Who said if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, right? It's Prince E made it famous, but somebody else said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, then there'll always be a failure. Right?
Yeah.
Have you heard that statement before?
No, but it reminds me of another one. There's a principle where you speak into people how you want them to become. I forgot the principle of it. But, you always, we want to speak into somebody in the way they want to become, not what you perceive them as being. And they, like, if you're, when you're working with your kids, then you do that. When you're working with the people at your office, you speak into them in the way you want them to become.
I think it's not even intentional. I think it's like this belief that I've created in my life, and I'll be completely honest, it's something that's just come into me in the last couple of years. I believe, truthfully, that everyone can be something exceptional. They just don't know how yet. So when you and I met, I'm a very different person than I was then.
Yes.
At that time, you have no idea what I could be, but you're like, hey, dude, whatever it is, you can be something great. Yeah. Whatever you choose, you can do something great.
Yeah.
So no matter who I meet, no matter who's in front of me, a coach, a client, a child, I see their potential because I came from here and I went to wherever I'm on my way to, right? And I was like, man, if I can go from there to there, you can do that and exponentially, potentially more. Yeah. So like when people are saying in front of you, you're like, oh, I just have a belief, man, that the only thing holding you back is like the bullshit story you tell yourself as to why you can't. So then how do we then support you in whatever we can? Like you and I are both teachers, right?
Yeah.
Inherently are at our soul, we're teachers. Yeah. So when you see someone in front of you, you're like, yeah, I'm not sure how, but I can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it may just be like reminding you of who you are or reminding you of what you're capable of or showing you the path or showing you the book. But we're all just there to like, hey man, right now you're in first grade. Yeah. By the end of this year, you're going to be in second grade. Yeah. And let's just take one step every day to move you from first grade to second grade, or 10th grade to 12th, whatever, right? Yeah. But it's just like one step in front of the other, and the path reveals itself.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share with you the first book I came out with is called Journey to Personal Greatness, right? Mind, Body, Soul, and it's all based on this idea of to achieve true greatness, it's a connection. You can't, because in the bodybuilding industry, fitness industry, bodies look beautiful. Okay, so they got there in the body section by standards of society. People can bliss out in yoga, but they're missing this material thing. They don't want money, but they're struggling. They can't connect with people. They're too up there. And then, so you need this idea of this mind, body, and soul, this connection. This is what I'm working on. Like physical body, take care of your body because this is the vehicle. But this meditation takes care of the soul, reconnect with your authentic self, who you are, why you're here, working on that purpose. And, the mindset, working on the mindset, because everything's between the ears, and this comes from my athletic. So now when I wrote that book, I realized I needed how do we do this? So my second book I'm working on is called The 4 Pillars of Greatness. And this kind of ties into what you're saying. So I believe...
What are they?
Okay, so I believe, good question.
I have my 4 pillars.
Good question. I have 4. So here's the number 1. And the reason why I brought this up, you triggered it. I believe everybody knows why they're here and what they want. But at some point, they got disillusioned.
Forget.
And people around them, right, tell them what they are, or they might think we grow to have limitations. What we think we can do and can't do, based on so many reasons.
Yep.
So clarity is the first C. First pillar is clarity. You got to be clear. And by the way, clarity is a dynamic thing. It changes. Because what you wanted at 25, completely different than now. And then 55 is something different.
Yep.
Right? You want to leave a legacy, impact, and significance, all that stuff later on, possibly. So it's a dynamic thing. So you always got to be working on, what do I want? It's the biggest question. I don't know what I want. I believe people do know what they want. But here comes the second C. Afraid. Courage. My second pillar is courage. You need courage. It's so funny. And when I say about courage is I can convince everybody to let's jump out of a plane. They think that's being courageous. That's not being courageous. You know what's being courageous? Going out and claiming who you are. Getting out of your closet, your proverbial closet, and tell the world who you really are.
There's a video that comes up, Earl Nightingale. The opposite of cowardice is not courage. It's conformity.
Conformity, yeah.
That comes to mind for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that second one is courage, and that courage piece.
So I guess just to finish that.
Yeah.
Conformity right now in this current time. The opposite of courage.
Yes,
conformity.
We see it. We see it happening. All right. So courage. Second C, commitment. That's the third pillar. Commitment. You got to be committed. If you say yes, do it. Do it. Even when the mood leaves you, do it. Because you're committed. Okay, and then the last pillar is consistency. Because here's what I found though, that last C, if you don't have all the other 3, do the last C. Okay, because when you're consistent, guess what you build? Commitment.
Totally.
When you're consistent, guess what you build? Courage.
So my pillars are a little bit different. And I've never shared them before because I'm actually building a business around this.
Right.
I'd love to actually give your perspective. So when I meditate, I've shared this once on the podcast before. When I meditate, this is how I meditate. Wisdom.
Yeah.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Love.
Right.
Strength.
Like it.
So wisdom, integrity, love, and strength. Those are my pillars. So I'm calling in wisdom. So I'm welcoming wisdom from everything. Like in everything, there's an innate wisdom.
Yeah.
And so in people and experiences, innate wisdom.
Right.
Integrity, as you say, is the consistent commitment to myself.
Yeah.
Love, obvious. It's coming from a place of love. And acceptance.
Yeah.
And then strength is not just physical.
Yeah.
It's not just physical.
Yeah.
It's like courage. It's like having the courage to be strong enough to pursue or to reinforce my beliefs or what,
Yeah.
It's wisdom, integrity, love, and strength. Those are my WILS.
Yeah, I love it.
And so when I meditate, I'm literally bringing in an abundance of wisdom, bringing in an abundance of integrity, bringing in, in alignment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I have this vision. It's like this line that's going through my body. Like it's almost like the chakras,
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that. I was just thinking as you went down your 4, you landed down in here, which is that base chakra.
Maybe that's the first strength.
Yeah. First that connection. Exactly. Seriously. That's a base, man. So, but it's been, this whole journey, it continues for me. I'm having fun with every day.
What are you studying right now? I know you're a student. You're always studying.
Yeah. NLP, man. I'm diving back into NLP.
Yeah.
I
took a course this year.
Yeah, I did. I looked at it sometimes. Okay, so here's my strength and my weakness. I like to look at something and see how I can do it a little bit better. Okay. But here's what I don't do. What I'm learning to do is become the student too.
Yeah.
Right? Become the student of something that's already created.
It's your arrogance.
Arrogance. It is arrogance.
Mine too.
It is arrogance. Yeah. But I had an epiphany. What am I trying to do? So I'm trying to create this integrated peak performance consultant.
Yeah.
Why don't I honor the idea that NLP has already been established since the 70s and work with that? And then, right?
Right. So I do the same thing.
Yeah. My
Fine.
ego.
Well, so man, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's like maybe your contrarian mindset or your ego, but dude, I think this, you and I are doing the same thing. Yeah. So I think take it as far as you can, learn as much as you can from them. And so, dude, the only reason I became who I am in muscle building is because what? I took everything what everyone else said. I was like, it's not complete. It's not complete. Yeah. I can push this further than you, right? Yeah. So not only am I learning from the best, I'm also doing it better than the best.
Yeah.
You're doing this, so you got to do the same. You got to go, okay, I'm learning theory, but now the only way I can make this better is not by theorizing and thinking about it, because someone's thought about it 25 years longer than I have. Yeah. But if I do it and I apply it and I go, where does this break? Yeah. Then maybe you have something new to stand on. Yeah. And I think, dude, I've studied Bandler a lot, and that guy's unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. I'm actually studying hypnosis a little bit now, and I think that's phenomenal.
Over the pandemic, I ended up getting my diploma in hypnosis.
Which thing?
Actually, I did it online, Udemy, and just did a Udemy since I have all the other things. All the other things.
Dude, that's wrong for you online.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm into it now. So I did a hypnosis class this week, or session this week. Yeah. And it was maybe certainly in the last couple of years, one of the most transformative things I've ever done. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm hooked. So I was studying a little bit before. I'm like, no, this is unbelievable. I'm actually going to get the guy who did it on the podcast. It was, man, I'll tell you about it off the podcast, but it was phenomenal.
You and I should, I know time is a big thing for both of us, but you and I should connect to dive deeper, because I am just tearing apart the NLP. Good. You know how I do things. Anything I do, I'm just, let's dissect this thing and really know it.
Yeah, I got a lot of plates in the air right now. Business and family and so I'd love to. Yeah, let's see if we can carve out some time and do a regular. What'd you learn? If someone wants to work with you, where do they find you?
They can find me online. I got Journey to Personal Greatness. It's online, and I have 3 programs. Greatness. I call Walk to Greatness. So if you just you've never been coached before, because I know a lot of people don't even know what that is, and it's an art to being coached too. By the way, I found that out. Asking for help is not easy, man. Yeah, it's rough. So I have the Walk program. You can walk to greatness. So you take your time, your first time. Then I have Run to Greatness, where we develop a relationship 3, 6, 12 months. And we work through everything from mind, body, soul. And the last one is a Fly to Greatness, which is where I have a small room for amount of people doing that, because it's where you get me, I get your, you can connect with me at any time, but that's a bigger price package.
You should do Box to Greatness. Fight your way
back. Exactly. That's right. Fight your way back. Exactly.
Love you, buddy.
You too, man. You too.
Always great. That's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning into the Muscle Intelligence Podcast. We are doing our best to continue to bring you the best guests on the planet. And I know this was no letdown for you. And I know the guests coming up in the next few weeks are going to completely blow your mind. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, then Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, do it now. Wherever amazing podcasts are listened to and distributed, you will find us there. If you did find this podcast enjoyable, leave us a review on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. We would love to hear from you. If you're not already following Muscle Intelligence Podcast on Instagram, do that now. We have some incredible giveaways coming from our sponsors. If you want to pick up awesome free stuff, if you want to get some great insights from us, do that now. We are doing our best to constantly be giving you guys great value. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a supporter of the podcast. And ultimately, thank you for inspiring us and aspiring to be the greatest version of yourself. I truly believe you deserve to live your greatest life in a body that you absolutely love.
Thank you so much for tuning into Muscle Intelligence. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to share it with at least one person you know. And make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Ben Pekulski and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.